What is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'm reviewing the Reebok Speed 22 TR. So 3 pros that I have with this model is number 1, I think if you are on the market for a slightly more budget-friendly shoe for tackling HIIT workouts, classes, some light running, and then also some light lifting, I honestly think this could be a viable option. With the Reebok Speed 21 TR kind of flopping in regard to its overall construction and performance, it's nice that this model has kind of had a nice uptick in regard to the updates to its construction, making it a much more viable, cost-efficient option for anybody who has very specific needs within those training contexts. So overall, I do think they're going to be a strong performer there. With the Reebok Floatride Energy Foam midsole, you get a nice level of pop. You also have a midfoot wedge here for additional lateral support. And as a whole, the upper breathes pretty well, and the shoe is fairly lightweight, making them a good pick for that context. The second pro that I have with the shoe is that thank goodness, but Reebok reworked the lacing system and the upper on this model. So in the Speed 21 TR, we had those internal loops on the lacing system. That's cool in theory, however, a lot of durability issues arose from them because with the stress of jumping and whatnot, they would break and pull apart. In this model, you have a traditional lacing system, so overall, I don't think you're gonna have nearly as many durability issues in this shoe that you had with the Speed 21 TR. So it's really cool to see Reebok listening to the community and then updating this model accordingly. So my third pro with this model is that outside of HIIT training, classes, and some light lifting, I also see this as a pretty viable, just daily wear shoe. So if you want a shoe just to wear out and about and beat up, and then also go do some light training in, this can be a really good option to explore. Because we have this full rubber outsole tread patterning, you get a nice level of grip on outdoor surfaces. Plus, I don't think you're gonna have issues with breakdown with the midsole or outsole in this model. We have a nice outsole wrap here over the toe box. And as a whole, I do think this could be a good beater training shoe if you want one model for doing a little bit of everything and then also wearing on a daily wear basis. Honestly, if I had to compare this shoe to another Reebok model, it kind of reminds me of the Reebok Floatride Energy 3, so the running shoe that Reebok builds. That's a bit more cost efficient in nature, but it's kind of really good in all these different playing fields. This model is very similar to that shoe in the context that it can be kind of a good daily wear shoe, also decent for training, and its price point is pretty fair. So 2 potential cons that I could see folks having with the Speed 22 TR is number 1, this model does not come with a separate insole. So we do not have a removable insole in this shoe. You just have this internal construction, and this is similar to the Speed 21 TR. Now in most training settings, I don't think this is going to be an issue for most folks. However, where I did see it as an issue was when I was having a track workout and it was very hot and humid outside, I was noticing that I was sliding a little bit when I was doing forward jumps and more sprint work in this model. So if you're wearing let's say thin no-show socks like I was, and you're working out in hot climates, you may slide a little bit in this model, especially if the upper volume is a little bit loose and you have let's say a flatter foot anatomy. So that is something to consider. You might want to put in separate insoles in the shoe if you are going to be training outdoors, or if you do notice that sliding, because that will then bring you up a little bit and put that upper a little bit more secure and tight on the foot so you don't have that issue. Another con that I have with the shoe is that with this lateral heel clip, I like it in theory, however, it's not the most supportive. So it would be cool to see Reebok actually reinforce this a little bit and then maybe actually extend this around the medial side. We do not have a medial support here. We just have this rubber wedge down here in the outsole. So with this TPU layer, it's not the most supportive. It follows a similar shape to the Nano 12. So I would love to see this kind of buffed and increased in regard to giving you more support when you're really driving and digging in laterally when you're training, whether it be with a skater hop or whether it be you're cutting and doing more agility work. It'd be nice to have a tad more support in this shoe. The upper does a decent job at locking you down, but I think adding a little bit more support on that lateral midfoot would really help increase the shoe's overall performance for multi-directional training. But now let's talk about the performance of the Reebok Speed 22 TR. So to chat on the performance of the Reebok Speed 22 TR, I'm going to break this section into a few different parts. I'm going to talk about lifting, versatile training, shorter runs, and then daily wear. In the context of lifting, this model is okay. It is not going to be your shoe for heavier training, and that is a cap with this model's performance. So if that is something you desire to do with your training shoes, you might want to look into other models. I started to notice this midsole compress around 275 pounds. As you can see, it is pretty thick. We have a 10 millimeter heel toe drop on the shoe, so you have a lot of material separating that foot from the floor. For light training, they're fine, but once you start getting a little bit heavier, you will be lacking stability in the shoe. So again, if you're going to be investing in this model, I would say just understand that they are not going to be your best bet for lifting, especially if you're doing heavier barbell work or even heavier machine work where you need a nice stable foot position. In the context of versatile training, I actually really like this model, and I'm super stoked that Reebok updated the upper to give it a little bit more durability, because I wanted to like the Reebok Speed 21 TR, but I couldn't really get behind some of the durability issues that it had, especially in regard to what it was designed to do, HIIT training, plyos, etc. So seeing the updates here, it really does help this model perform a lot better, and honestly, I could see this being a very good shoe for anybody who wants to do HIIT workouts and classes on a weekly basis and they want something consistent. I feel like this model is very consistent in the sense that the midsole gives you a nice level of pop, and in regard to like the last construction, it reminds me somewhat of the Nike Super Rep, where you have like a nice wide forefoot and a nice wide heel. So if you are on the forefoot a lot in your training, or if you are doing multi-directional work, you have a pretty good base in this model. And for the most part, it does lock you down pretty well for multi-directional training. So in the context of versatile training, I do like the Reebok Speed 22 TR. Honestly, I think it's a step in the right direction for this model line, and I could see it being just a very good budget-friendly model for anybody who wants a shoe for more versatile training on a weekly basis that they can also wear for daily wear and beat up and not feel too bad about the price point. For shorter runs, this model does okay. I would say probably cap your runs to about like 2 or 3 miles max in this shoe. You do get a nice level of cushion in this model, so it's not going to beat you up a ton. And for sprint work and whatnot, this model also did okay. Again though, with the thicker midsole, I was bottoming out a little bit on some of my sprint work and some of my plyo work. So that is something to think about if you plan to do like track workouts in this shoe. That is one area where I'm a little bit hit or miss on this shoe's performance. But again, like, they're not really designed for sprints, but they can hold their own. So I do like that about this model. Just understand that like lifting, you may have a performance cap with the shoe's performance in the context of running. And then in the context of daily wear, the shoe does a pretty good job. It's lightweight, it's comfortable. With that higher heel to toe drop, they're pretty easy to walk in for longer distances. They don't beat your feet up. And honestly, even when I was walking like 15K steps in New York City recently, the shoe didn't feel super uncomfortable. I like the full rubber outsole. I don't think you're gonna have an issue with durability or breakdown with this model's midsole or outsole for walking or daily wear, so that's something that's really positive about this shoe. Plus, with their price point, I could see this being a viable option for just rocking out and about and then going to train in. Overall, the Reebok Speed 22 TR, I think it's a step in the right direction for this shoe line. Are there areas where it could be improved? Definitely. But compared to the Speed 21 TR, I think this could definitely be a viable option for some folks out there who want it for more versatile training. All right, so now let's answer the question, who should invest in the Reebok Speed 22 TR? Hopefully I've made it pretty clear in this video already, but I think if you are somebody who does classes, HIIT workouts, you do more athletic style training, light lifting, and you want a model for short runs and then daily wear, this model can be a pretty viable option to explore. It does a pretty good job in all of those contexts, and I think they are pretty dang comfortable and lightweight, so a lot of folks will enjoy their overall fit and feel for longer durations. Now, they will fall short for things like CrossFit, heavy lifting, if you plan to do like a ton of sprinting in them, and then also for longer runs. So just be conscious that while the shoe is pretty dang versatile in nature, it is gonna have some caps as you get more niche with your training. When it comes to sizing and fit in the Reebok Speed 22 TR, I think most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size in this model. The length fits true, and the width is what I would describe as like a neutral width. Now, comparing its fit to other models on the market, it's a little bit more narrow through the end of the toe box compared to like a Nano 12. However, it is wider compared to something like a Nike Super Rep Go. So compared to other HIIT shoes, I do feel like it's a slightly wider option, and compared to like some other cross-training shoes that have wider toe boxes, the toe box is a little bit more form-fitting. So I do think they'll work for a variety of foot anatomies, and you should be safe going true to size. If you have a notably narrow foot, then maybe size down a half size. But again, I think for most folks, true to size will be the call. When chatting on the price of the Reebok Speed 22 TR, you can expect to pay $110 USD. Now, that price point can be a little bit hit or miss based on how you want to use the shoe. I think if you are that versatile training focused athlete who does a lot of HIIT workouts, classes on a weekly basis, then the price makes sense. They're consistent, and honestly, I feel like compared to other HIIT shoes, they are a little bit more budget friendly in nature. Now, if you want a shoe for CrossFit or heavy lifting, and that is something you plan to do on top of the versatile training and whatnot, you might want to look for a different model that can support all of those needs a little bit better versus falling short for some and then being subpar in other contexts. So when it comes to the weight, heel to toe drop, and insole in the Speed 22 TR, I don't have a scale with me on the road. However, it does feel very similar to the Speed 21 TR. That shoe had a weight of 10 ounces for my size 10 model. I would guess that this might be a little bit heavier just because we have a reworked lacing system and and the upper feels a little bit heavier too. So if I had to guess, it's probably around like 10.5, 11. However, I do not have the formal weight at this moment. The heel to toe drop in this shoe is 10 millimeters. And then once again, this model does not come with a removable insole. All right, now let's go over the construction of the Reebok Speed 22 TR. Up here on the toe box, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up. We have a little light toe guard around the toe box in this model. And then looking at the midsole construction, we have that Reebok Float Ride Energy Foam in this shoe. This model once again does have a 10 millimeter drop. The heel stack height is sitting around 22 millimeters, while the toe and forefoot is around 12 millimeters. Looking at the outsole construction, we have a full rubber outsole with this lug patterning. This is very similar to the Speed 21 TR and also the Reebok Nano 11 and 12. And then looking at the upper construction, we have a mesh and knit layering throughout the shoe. We have some breathability through the forefoot and midfoot in this model, and the tongue itself is not gusseted, but we do have 2 loops here on the tongue to help provide additional security. I haven't had many issues with this tongue rounding yet. However, it is a slightly thinner tongue, so that is something that could be an issue for some folks. So definitely keep an eye on that if you plan to train in the shoe. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 core eyelets that run up this model. The tongue itself has some Reebok branding at the top. And then looking at the midfoot construction, once again, we have this TPU layer here that wraps up the midfoot on the lateral side of the shoe. We have a little bit of a wedge here throughout the outsole too that comes up into the midfoot of the shoe. And then we have a similar wedge here on the medial side. We do not have an additional TPU layer here on the medial side of the shoe, giving you additional midfoot support. Looking at the boot, we have some Reebok branding back here. The boot itself has a nice little cup in it, so it is pretty structured and rigid. And then looking at the insole, once again, we do not have a removable insole. This shoe comes with this finished internal construction, so if you do want to put your own insole in, so let's say you have like a Reebok Nano 11 or 12, I think you could probably do that in this shoe without having any major sizing issues or like issues with that insole interacting with this shoe's last construction. But overall, that's the gist of the Speed 22 TR's construction. If you have additional questions on this model's construction, drop a comment down below. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Reebok Speed 22 TR. Overall, I think this shoe is a step in the right direction for the Reebok Speed TR line. I'm glad that they updated the lacing system. However, there are a couple of little construction updates that I think they could do to make this shoe an even stronger model. If you have additional questions on the shoe, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, just for anybody else following along, we are in Jersey City at the moment, hence the different background. We are in a Marriott Residence Inn, I believe. And some other exciting updates. I got a new tattoo, so we are starting to build out the full sleeve on this arm. So that is pretty sweet. Got that done yesterday. It is still pretty fresh and gnarly, but I hope you all are doing well. If you have any additional questions on the Speed 22 TR, drop a comment down below.